Have you been thinking about remarrying, but felt a quiet instinct telling you to wait? That instinct might be wiser than you realize. Because while love in later life can be beautiful, comforting, and deeply healing, it also comes with challenges most people never talk about. You've lived a full life. You've built routines, relationships, and maybe even raised children, or lost someone you deeply loved. And bringing someone new into your world, especially now, changes more than just your name or your mailing address. It changes how your money moves. It shifts family dynamics, and it demands a level of clarity many people don't realize until they're already in too deep. In this video, we're going to walk through 5 truths every person over 70 should know before getting remarried. These aren't meant to scare you. They're meant to guide you, protect you, and give you peace of mind. Because love at this age isn't like love at 30. It's not about building from scratch. It's about merging what's already been built. And that's why the risks, if ignored, can feel heavier and more permanent. Stay with us until the end, because the final truth might be the one most people never consider, but it could save you from years of silent regret. So whether you're already in a relationship, thinking about saying yes, or just curious about what remarriage means later in life, this video is for you. Let's begin. Number 1, legal and financial consequences few talk about. Most people believe that love is all you need. But when you're over 70 and considering remarriage, what you don't know about legal and financial consequences can quietly unravel the life you've built. Remarrying can affect everything from your Social Security benefits to your will, your pension, and even your tax bracket. And while love may feel like the most important factor, failing to understand, these changes can lead to serious complications, not just for you, but for the people who rely on you, trust you, or stand to inherit from you. For example, many seniors don't realize that remarrying after the age of 60 can affect widower Social Security benefits. If you're receiving spousal benefits from a deceased partner, that income may be reduced or cut off entirely once you legally remarry. Pensions from previous spouses, especially government or military, may also be impacted. And if you've set up a will or trust with your children in mind, remarriage can legally override those wishes if new documents aren't drawn up. Suddenly, the assets you intended to pass down may be redirected without you even realizing it. I once knew a man named Carl, 76, who had been widowed for nearly a decade. He met a wonderful woman, and they married quietly without much paperwork or planning. Years later, after Carl passed, his children were stunned to discover that his pension benefits had shifted entirely to his new wife, leaving behind confusion, resentment, and irreversible financial loss. Carl hadn't done anything wrong. He just didn't know the rules had changed. Even your taxes can shift in ways that surprise you. While being married might lower taxes for some, for others, especially seniors with retirement income, property, or investment accounts, it may actually bump you into a higher bracket. You may lose access to certain deductions or benefits that were available when you filed as single or widowed. These changes don't happen with drama or warning. They happen quietly on forms, through policies and documents. You may not think to review until it's too late. At this stage of life, protecting your peace includes protecting your paper. You've worked too hard for too long to have your final wishes undone by a marriage certificate you didn't fully understand. Love is still possible. Commitment is still beautiful. But don't let the emotional part of marriage blind you to the practical parts, because once those parts shift, they can't always be reversed. Number 2, emotional needs that quietly change with age. When we think about remarriage, it's easy to imagine a second chance at love, the laughter, the companionship, the sense of being needed again. But here's something not enough people say out loud. The emotional needs that shaped your first marriage may no longer be the ones that truly serve you now. At 70 or 75, you may not be looking for the same kind of relationship you once needed at 35 or 40. What used to be about building a life together is now about preserving the life you've already built with care, balance, and clarity. For many seniors, what they crave isn't romance in the traditional sense. It's respect. It's emotional companionship without the heavy expectation of day-to-day dependency. And when those deeper needs aren't clearly identified, they get buried under a rush of feelings. Loneliness, nostalgia, or even guilt about wanting connection again. But rushing into remarriage without naming your new emotional truth can lead to confusion, disappointment, or a subtle erosion of your independence. I once knew a woman named Helen, 74, who remarried quickly after losing her husband of 45 years. Her new partner was kind, generous, and devoted, But she soon realized that what she really wanted wasn't another man to take care of her. She wanted a partner who respected her space, supported her decisions, and understood that she wasn't looking to start over. She was looking to move forward. It took time, but they eventually renegotiated their dynamic, not as a husband and wife in the traditional mold, but as two older adults choosing each other without needing to define their worth through each other. Remarriage at this stage of life should start with one question. What do I truly need emotionally right now? Maybe it's someone to share meals with, or someone who makes you laugh. Maybe it's a travel companion, or someone who simply listens without trying to fix. Those are all real needs, but they're different than the emotional dependencies many younger couples build into marriage. And unless you name them early, you may end up accepting a version of partnership that brings more obligation than joy. Another truth is that your emotional energy is finite now. You may no longer have the bandwidth for constant emotional caretaking or intense conflict resolution. And that's not selfish, it's wisdom. You've learned what you can and can't live with. You've learned the cost of silence, of resentment, of emotional imbalance. And this time, if you do it again, it should be from a place of self-awareness, not longing, because longing fades. But clarity endures. So before you say yes, ask yourself, do I want a partner or do I want peace? Sometimes you can have both, but sometimes chasing one quietly steals the other. And at this age, peace isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 3, blended families and the hidden friction they bring. When two people in their 70s decide to marry, it may feel like a simple decision between two hearts, but in reality, there are often many more people involved, and not all of them are eager to celebrate. Adult children, grandchildren, extended, relatives from both sides can quietly bring emotional complexity, financial suspicion, or even resentment to the surface. And if you're not prepared for that friction, what begins as a hopeful union can quickly turn into a source of unexpected strain. Blended families aren't new, but what's different at this stage of life is that each person brings decades of personal history, grief, and expectation to the table. Your children may still be processing the loss or absence of their other parent. They may feel uncertain about your new partner's intentions, or about what this change means for their inheritance, their place in your life, or the family traditions they've come to cherish. Even if no one says it directly, the tension often reveals itself through hesitation, passive resistance, or a growing distance that's hard to explain. I knew a man named Gerald, 78, who remarried after being widowed for many years. His daughter, now in her 40s, was kind to his new wife, but there was a subtle shift in their relationship. Fewer phone calls, shorter visits. Gerald didn't understand it at first until one day. She admitted that she felt replaced, not because his new wife had done anything wrong, but because he hadn't made space for her emotions in the process. That honest conversation changed everything. Not because it fixed every issue, but because it brought unspoken fears into the light. And sometimes the conflict isn't emotional, it's financial. When families see wills rewritten or assets redirected, it can lead to painful misunderstandings, fractured trust, and long-term estrangement. It doesn't mean you owe your family every decision, but you do owe them honesty and the chance to ask questions before changes are made. These conversations are uncomfortable, but avoiding them doesn't prevent hurt. It just delays it. Before you remarry, take time to speak openly with your children and close family members. Let them know your reasons, your hopes, and your boundaries. Reassure them where you can and make room for their discomfort where you can't. You don't need their permission, but you'll need their presence in your life far longer than you'll need their approval for one decision. Because in the end, the success of your marriage won't just depend on the two of you. It will depend on how well you both navigate the delicate dance of honoring the past while building something new. And that's not just about love. That's about emotional leadership. And at your age, you've had enough experience to know the hardest conversations are often the ones that lead to the deepest peace. Number 4, the caregiving role no one plans for. In your 70s or 80s, love can feel like a comforting return. Someone to talk with at breakfast, someone to hold hands with during a walk, someone to share a quiet evening with after the noise of life has faded. But what many seniors don't fully consider is how quickly that companionship can shift into caretaking, and how unprepared most people are for what that truly demands. When you remarry at this age, you're not just gaining a partner. You may also be inheriting their future health needs and placing your own in someone else's hands. It starts small. A doctor's visit, a prescription to be picked up. And before long, one of you may find yourselves filling pill boxes, helping with bathing, cooking meals, or managing appointments. And while these things can be done out of love, they also take energy, physical, emotional, and mental, that few people have to spare in their later years. I once knew a woman named Gloria, 80, who remarried a man she deeply adored. He was sharp, funny, and strong, but within 2 years, his health declined quickly. She found herself lifting him in and out of chairs, waking up in the middle of the night to help him to the bathroom, and making medical decisions she never anticipated having to face again. She didn't regret loving him, but she often said, "I wish we'd talked more about what might come." That's the piece most people miss. When you marry later in life, you're not entering a phase of building a future. You're managing what remains of it. That doesn't make it less meaningful. In fact, it makes it more sacred. But it does mean you need to ask the questions no one wants to ask. What happens if one of us gets sick? Who handles the finances if one of us declines? Are we emotionally prepared to become caregivers again? Not out of obligation, but out of genuine readiness. Caregiving isn't just a list of tasks. It changes the relationship. It introduces dependency. It tests patience. And for many seniors, it reopens old grief, memories of taking care of a spouse who has passed, or fears of becoming a burden themselves. Without honest conversations up front, these feelings can build silently, turning what began as love into quiet resentment or overwhelming fatigue that neither person saw coming. That's why before you remarry, you must speak candidly, not just about who you are now, but who you're becoming. Talk about long-term care plans. Talk about mobility, memory, driving, and even housing. Will you stay in your home? Will you move closer to adult children? Will you hire help when the time comes? Or will you try to do it all yourselves? There are no perfect answers. But ignoring the questions won't protect you from the consequences. And if you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 5, the importance of healing before you begin again. Loneliness after 70 can feel louder than it did before. The house is quieter, the days feel longer, and the absence of someone to share life with becomes more noticeable with each passing season. And in that space, it's natural to seek connection, to long for companionship, affection, or even just the presence of another voice in the room. But if you haven't fully healed from your past, whether that means grieving a spouse, recovering from a divorce, letting go of old resentment, then remarriage can quietly become a way of avoiding your pain rather than resolving it. Many seniors remarry hoping it will fill an emotional void. And while a new partner may bring joy, comfort, or even laughter, they cannot carry the weight of your unprocessed grief. When we remarry from a place of emotional imbalance, we may unintentionally place unfair expectations on the other person, expecting them to be more understanding, more available, or more like the one we lost. And when they can't meet those silent expectations, resentment can build, not because they did something wrong, but because we never fully said goodbye to the life we left behind. I remember a man named Eugene, 83, who married a widow just 2 years after losing his wife of 50 years. He said all the right things. He wanted to move on. He believed in second chances, but deep down, he admitted later, he still talked to his late wife every night before bed. He kept her clothes in the closet. He still wore her wedding ring on a chain around his neck. His new wife never asked him to let go, but she always felt like she was living beside a ghost. And eventually, that distance took its toll. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean closing the door on your past. It means making peace with it, so that when you say yes again, it's not a reaction to what was lost, but a response to what you're genuinely ready to receive. Healing means asking yourself hard questions. Have I fully grieved? Am I marrying to avoid something or to build something new? Would I still want this person in my life if I were already whole? One of the most generous things you can offer a future partner is a version of yourself that is not expecting to be rescued, fixed, or filled up. Because the kind of love that lasts in your 70s and 80s isn't the kind that completes you. It's the kind that honors what you've already become and gently joins you there. Before you remarry, take time to sit with your story. Talk to a counselor or a trusted friend. Write letters to people you've lost, even if you never send them. And if you still feel moments of sadness, that's okay. Healing isn't about removing grief. It's about making space for love to stand beside it without competition. Because the most beautiful relationships later in life are not the ones that try to start over. They're the ones that say, I see your past. I honor your journey. And I'm here, not to replace anyone, but to walk with you for as long as we're given. That kind of love doesn't rush, and it never asks you to pretend you're not still healing. It simply meets you where you are and stays. Final thoughts. As we wrap up this video, I want you to take a quiet moment to reflect on what remarriage really means. Not just in theory, but in your life, your heart, and your future. You've heard 5 truths today, not to scare you away from love, but to prepare you for it. Because at this stage, love is no longer about rushing into a feeling. It's about understanding the life you're inviting someone into. It's about protecting what you've built, honoring where you've been, and carefully choosing what you bring forward. Whether it's sorting through financial changes, understanding how your emotional needs have shifted, navigating the reality of blended families, preparing for the possibility of caregiving, or ensuring you've fully healed before opening your heart again, each of these truths offers you something invaluable: clarity. And clarity is what gives love a place to grow that isn't clouded by confusion or regret. You deserve companionship that fits your life as it is now, not as it once was. You deserve peace in your household, strength in your decisions, and joy in your later years that isn't dependent on anyone else for stability. Remarriage can be part of that joy, but only if you walk into it with both eyes open and both feet grounded in self-respect. So before you say yes to anyone else, say yes to yourself. Say yes to your own understanding, your own timing, your own boundaries. Because when you're rooted in your truth, the love you attract will be better, not louder, not flashier, but better. The kind of love that doesn't rush you, doesn't drain you, and doesn't ask you to be anything but exactly who you are. And if this video gave you something to think about, whether it was a reminder, a challenge, or a quiet reassurance, then take it with you. Let it sit. Let it shape the next conversation you have, the next decision you make, or the next story you tell someone who needs to hear it. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.